Welcome to Birken Forest Monastery's live stream. I'm Ajahn Sona. Let's get on to questions, Pia.
Ajahn, our first question today is from Nils in Brazil. What is the best one can do for one's parents if they are uninterested in the Dhamma?
Well, one thing I should say to people is that the Buddha did say that the best thing you could do for your parents is expose them to Dhamma, because Dhamma is really just how to reduce suffering in life, good, well thought out strategies for reducing suffering. And so if they're resistant to that, I mean, first of all, the best way to do it is to behave yourself in an enlightened fashion, and then you're an example that your parents may notice. Like if your own behavior is good, upright, and that you're uplifted in emotional terms, if you're happy and so forth. This is quite intriguing for people. They become interested in what it is you're doing or thinking in your life. So be an impressive person to them. And beyond that, you can't do much more than that. But one thing, you shouldn't be quoting the Buddha and so forth. You just have ideas slipping out that are skillful about how to respond to situations, and how perhaps despair and anger and so forth are unskillful responses, that there are better responses, etc. So it's kind of disguised Dhamma. There's a lot of that floating around. All kinds of sayings and structures and so forth are actually from the Buddha, from this great spiritual genius of the 5th century BC, and they have persisted, and they've been integrated into other types of philosophies and teachings. And so when people don't think they're being sold a religion or something like that, quite often they find great wisdom in what's being said. So disguise the source and behave yourself in an upright fashion, speak well and act well. And that's the best you can do. Okay, next.
Ajahn, our next question from the live stream is from Delaney in Florida, United States. Dear Ajahn, how can one cultivate, quote, letting go, unquote, through meditation? Are there specific techniques or approaches that can help develop this quality more effectively?
Yeah, that phrase letting go is very commonly misunderstood. Quite often it's sort of letting go of trying. You're trying to fix yourself or become less angry or something. Somebody advised you, just let it go, just don't create the tension of trying to fix yourself or something like this. So letting go is letting go of something. And the letting go is the letting go of greed, hostility, and confusion. But that means so that is half of the right effort. The first two of the right efforts are to prevent and remove. So to let go of anger, to let go of greed, to let go of these things. The second two right efforts, there are 4 right efforts under the 6th factor of the path called right effort. There's 4 approaches, and the second 2 are bringing certain things into existence through effort, through stirring up energy. The phrase is often repeated. You stir up energy and make effort to create positive mental states, and if they are there, then to deepen and strengthen them. So you are to let go of negative things, but not positive things. Those things remain. And some will say, but aren't you supposed to be detached from all things, all views, etc.? Well, there's a little bit of a logical issue there. If you're meaning, what does detached mean? Are you not to make effort, or are you to make effort? It seems the Buddha says in a very clear way, you are to make effort. You are to let go of, remove, and prevent negative things, negative emotional states, confused emotional states, and to cultivate positive ones. And to make a solid effort to not only, not to let go of them, but to maintain them, deepen them. You are not simply watching things go by. You are holding to things. But do you hold? Is it a grip forever? No. At first, there is effort, there is even tension and so forth, but eventually that goes away and it becomes your ordinary setting. It requires no effort to remain generous, kind, and lucid. Now you have become one with right effort, and it is now effortless. And you're not clinging to a view. You are basically, the view is embodied in you. You are that view, and you don't feel defensive about it or any kind of negativity coming up around it. The mind is irreversibly entered into what is called the enlightenment factors. There's at some point they become the default mode, and they are not reversible. So therefore, you are right view, etc. So this letting go is the letting go of wrong views and the arrival of right views through effort, which eventually becomes effortless. Let's go on.
Ajahn, the next question from the live stream is from Una in Serbia. Much gratitude, Ajahn, for all your wisdom. Have you come across Nanavira Thera's books, and what are your thoughts on his teachings?
Yes, Nanavira was a British monk in Sri Lanka in the 1950s, maybe into the early 60s. He was ordained with Nyanaponika Thera, the great German monk who lived in Sri Lanka for 57 years, 60 years perhaps, and had trained a number of monks. He also, Nanavira was with a kind of a friend of Nyanamoli, two very interesting characters in Buddhist history now. So they were in the 1950s to 60s. They both died early. Nyanamoli died of a heart condition in his 50s, I think it was. So he managed to last like 10 years, and Nanavira died by suicide. So that's a no-no. He's not supposed to do that. He also declared himself a Sotapanna, a first stage of enlightenment. It was quite, and wrote about it. That's a no-no too. You don't do that. I would say that these two characters, I mean, I could really go on about them. There should be a book written about these guys. They're really interesting. They were both in British intelligence in the Second World War. They were both, brilliant intellects and very sharp, and they were used in military intelligence. And then they, I guess they had enough of that. After the Second World War, which was pretty bad, they went off and became monks in Sri Lanka. They're both bright enough to encounter the teachings of the Buddha and to be very impressed by the teachings of the Buddha. So that already high quality of intelligence. They both mastered Pali very quickly. Nyanamoli to this day we're still using some of his translations. And Nanavira they were both, because they were actually, I think they were cryptic analyzers in the war. So they were used to, if you come to Pali, this ancient language, you have to, it's a bit cryptic, so you have to release the meanings in these words. So they were both very capable, but Nanavira wrote a book called Clearing the Path. So he was highly critical of all of the commentaries. He basically said, just it's best that you don't even open the commentaries, just abandon them. Very interested in the suttas, the early suttas, and very carefully kind of reconstructing them himself and making his own commentary. He's telling you to abandon the commentaries, but he is then providing you with a commentary, the commentary called Nanavira. He also was just a Thera, which means had 10 years in the robes before he actually committed suicide. He had various excuses for why he had some sort of ailment, typical tropical ailment, which he felt created problems in his practice that were unsurmountable. So, and I won't get into details, but look up the details on that. It was a very interesting kind of ailment. I myself I discourage it. I discourage people, especially if you're new to this, from reading Clearing the Path now, because I've discouraged that. Now everybody's going to read Clearing the Path. They'll say, I don't want anything censored. I want to read Clearing the Path. So, yeah, I don't. In the end, I think my opinion is that he was rather conceited and perhaps delusional as well, but bright. And not everything in the book is bad or anything like that. There's all kinds of clever things and thoughtful things. But, it's very early. At that time, for a Western monk to have 10 years in the robes seemed very senior and astonishing. Now, 10 years is like a junior monk. I've got 36 years in the robes now. So, really interesting characters. I really think somebody, should write a book about them. There's a novel in there at least, and maybe a work of nonfiction in there as well. So really fascinating characters. So I'll leave that for you today. Yeah.
Ajahn, our next question is from Anonymous in Bloomfield, New Jersey, United States. Dear Ajahn Sona, I've recently opened my heart and offered to help others that did not ask for such help. I initially felt such an overwhelming compassion that now has left me in this feedback loop of guilt, shame, and hatred for my actions. Is there a practice that can help me see through my ignorance?
Well, what's the name? Anonymous. Hello, Anon. Well, it kind of intrigues us why the guilt, the shame, and the something or other. What happened there? Usually acts of compassion are not accompanied by guilt, shame, and regret. Did you step over some lines in your compassion? Did it take you into gray areas of where you were being compassionate? Out of compassion, you did certain things and then thought, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best thing, Sometimes people console others who are depressed and bereft of this and that through romantic means and etc. That's where the lines are drawn. One should not transgress those lines through compassion. The ethical lines remain, and compassion shouldn't be accompanied by regret. By the way, if you have, out of compassion, done given more money away than you should have, or things like that, don't regret it. And maybe sometimes a person's very indigent and in poverty, and then you give them a bunch of money, and then they waste it. And then you think, I shouldn't have given it that. So don't regret it. The benefit of the act is in the act of giving, and what the person who receives it does with it is not your concern. Never regret having given. Giving is always good. Do not regret having given, etc. So, but yeah, compassion needs to be accompanied by wisdom. They are two requirements. You will see this can happen in religious conversions to Christianity, to various, Mahayana Buddhism particularly as well. There's a huge emphasis on compassion and self-sacrifice and so forth. And quite often it tends to go off the rails. It needs to be accompanied by the higher vision, which is a dispassionate recognition of the transience of all existence, and the ultimately unfixable nature of samsara itself. So one needs to be detached, wise, and equanimous, and that's the balance with compassion. So we do things for others, we fix things, but in the end we all die. So we have to remember that all the medicine and the sacrifice we make, in the end, again, it all fails in the end. So equanimity is the balancing factor with compassion. And that is that your head stays light and cool while your heart remains warm. Yeah. Okay.
Next question from the live stream is from Alex in New Jersey, United States. I've been wanting to live more simply and reduce my material possessions, but I run into mental blocks and lack of courage. Would you please speak on what the Buddha said about this? What hurdles do monks face when they give up possessions? Around some monasteries, I notice items such as flowers, banners, and Buddha statues. Are there certain items determined to be kept?
Yeah, the relationship to material objects are simply that, just to simplify your life. Statues and flowers and banners are all symbolic. They are for transmission of the ideas about Dhamma. So they're kind of like art objects. Flowers, by the way, represent impermanence because they're very beautiful, but they fade quickly. You see on the altars, they usually cut flowers, right? Rather than planted flowers, and the cut flowers only a few days and they're done. Very, very beautiful, but they fade. So the teaching in that flower is impermanence. The statue is just a concrete representation to sort of remind you of the Buddha, etc. So these are just devices, and one should not be clinging to them. The problem with things is clinging to the things. By the way, if you're a layperson, don't be too eager to give everything away and get rid of everything and live in an empty room. There's a very specific lifestyle in monastic. You become a monk and you give up certain things, but you also get certain things. And one of them is that the lay community feeds you and provides medicine. So food, shelter, clothing, and medicine is provided by the society around you. Hopefully they support you. And that's kind of the contract between the monastic and lay community. You support, this is an opportunity for generosity and merit making by supporting the monastics, but the monastics then can give away. They don't have to go to work. They don't have to save their money. They don't have to pay for medicine and so forth. They get supported so they can concentrate on their meditation project. So it's a specific type of lifestyle, and I don't advise lay people to abandon all your things because you're not a monk. You know, you need to behave appropriately to your lifestyle. You know, you have to support yourself. You have to go to work. You have to save your money. You have to have furniture. You have a social life. Etc. So don't be too eager to get rid of your couch or something like that. You know, it's just like, in the end, by the way, you won't notice much difference whether you have a couch or two, a couch and 3 chairs. If you get rid of 2 of the chairs and the couch, it doesn't really make any difference. You think people become very eager to do this. They think, I'm going to give everything away. I'm going to just all these possessions are just weighing me down. So they do. And then they're quite surprised to find out that it doesn't make much difference, whether you got 3 chairs in your living room or no chairs or 1 chair. It's really not that. It's your relationship to these things. If you're desperately investing a lot of interest in these things, then it's not the things that you should give away. It's the clinging and the excess concern over these things needs to be given away, not the things themselves. So they're just stuff, they're just something to sit on and so forth. And you got to get that in perspective, and don't make them a great burden in your life, but just say, well, these are cultural expectations. In certain times in the East, they sat on the floor. They didn't have chairs, and some people, they take up the Eastern lifestyle. They think, I'm going to get rid of all these chairs and just sit on the floor and so forth, and that's fine if you want to do that. But really, it doesn't make much difference. Sit on the floor, sit on a chair. It's just cultural. But don't get obsessed with these things. That's all. So reduce your attachment to the things. You don't really have to get rid of the chairs. Just don't fuss with them too much. Yeah. Okay, next.
Next question from the live stream is from Ryan in the South American rainforest. Dear Bhante, is it true the Buddha said, quote, all things converge on feelings, unquote? If so, could you kindly expound on this and how to incorporate it into a practice leading to the cessation of delusion?
Yes, that phrase does come up, and there's whole schools based around that. But one should read almost all of the teachings to see that the Buddha frequently says things like, all things converge on feelings, all things converge in impermanence, all things converge on wisdom, all things converge on this, converge on that. This is just a quick sort of saying, but one should treat it within context. So where do we find all things converging in feelings? We find in the 4 foundations of mindfulness. One of the categories is feelings, Vedana. But Vedana, feelings, cannot be really separated from other things like volitions, like your moral decisions in life. It can't be separated from wisdom. Isn't wisdom the ultimate aim? Isn't wisdom the ultimate knowledge and liberation? Aren't these the aims? How does that? Why is it feelings? So it's to meditate on feelings, the transient nature of feelings, pleasant, neutral, and unsatisfactory feelings, bodily feelings, and emotional feelings, is to see that you can't make them under control and stabilize them, and so it's a futile pursuit. So you realize the unsatisfactory nature of feelings. Well, that's one of the 3 characteristics. Dukkha, anicca, dukkha, anatta. Anicca is impermanence. Dukkha is unsatisfactoriness or painfulness, and anatta is no self or not self. So whatever helps reveal these three characteristics can be used as a vehicle for liberation, because we want to find our way out of dukkha. We want to find our way out of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. The path leads out of dukkha. So the first noble truth is suffering, and suffering occurs in feeling. So you feel suffering, right? You feel pain in the body. So he lists some things that you feel is pain, illness, aging, death, weeping, lamenting, etc. These are all kinds of the expressions of suffering that we experience. And then there is the end of it. There's the third noble truth, which is it can cease. And we look at the cause of it. So the underlying cause is actually not feelings, but attachment to feelings. And underlying that desire, craving, and attachment is ignorance. So the ultimate cause is ignorant. The ultimate cause of the suffering is ignorance. So we can come to this understanding of the nature of our ignorance in relationship to feelings. And how would you do this? You would look at the Four Foundations of Mindfulness Sutta, and you would practice in that, which would give you some advice on how to deal with the experience of Vedana, feelings. That's the second category. The first category is the body. Kaya nupassana, insight, reflection on the body. Now we look at the body in a bunch of different ways. And then we look at feelings, bodily feelings and emotional feelings in different ways. Now we look at the mind itself and ask ourselves about the contents of the mind. And then the fourth category is framing it within Dhamma structures, little lists like the 5 hindrances and the 5 khandhas and the 6 sense bases and the 7 factors of enlightenment and the Eightfold Path. These are frameworks to make the teachings coherent and workable so that we can work with them to gain liberation from our suffering. So this is how you would go to it. If you want to work with feelings, look at the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. It's the second category. But some schools make it the only thing. They because they heard this phrase, all things converge in feelings, they say, oh, that's the silver bullet to it all. I don't know why the Buddha would have wasted his time with the other 1,000 or so teachings if there was only one. So there isn't only one. There isn't a silver bullet. There's multiple types of personalities. They need multiple different types of teachings at different times in their practice. So one should not become obsessive about all things converge in feelings, which some schools do. Yes. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Next question from the live stream is from Zuri in Cambridge, UK. Ajahn, when one is feeling a bit manic, i.e. stirred up by ideas while reading, what is a good way to level it out? Breath meditation, body awareness is already helping.
Yeah, one should withdraw from intellectual practices sometimes, thinking, and try to let go of the thinking process. It's thinking the right things can be very enlivening, uplifting, riveting, like new ideas, brilliant insights. You know, there's a huge literature, Western literature of philosophy and political science and things like this that are just amazing. The people who wrote these things are very bright, and you come across these brilliant insights and think, wow, that's amazing, you know, and so forth. But generally, Western types of intellectual activities don't know anything beyond that. They don't appreciate the cessation of language and symbolic ideas. And that's where Buddhism, fortunately, has preserved this. This was known in religious practice in the Catholic contemplative orders, probably up to the 17th century or something like that. But that seems to have slipped away as well. They're dwelling in ideas and social action. So the power of stillness and silence and non-discursive activity is a restorative, very important restorative, rather than living exclusively in the world of ideas. So yes, you take a break from ideation and empty the mind, and it'll refresh. Push the refresh button. What do they call that? Uploading a new version of Apple's iOS. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next question. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Upasika Cristiano. Dear Ajahn, during meditation, I often experience persistent background music, even when the mind is calm. It's distracting and causes restlessness. Should I accept it or actively try to remove it?
Well, you probably listen to a lot of music, so you might find the joy of being very, very selective about listening to music. Just not just people have like the radio on all day long. Are there still radios out there? I forget. Radio still exists?
Internet radio.
Oh, internet radio. What? Okay. Whatever. Spotify. Are they sponsoring us? Yeah, don't have it don't play music all the time. Don't have music around all the time. People think that they want noise all the time. Some people have the TV on all day long. They're not watching it, but just they feel like they need. It's like puppies that need when you have puppies that are taken away from their mother too soon, one thing you can do is put a clock, a ticking clock into their bed with them. They feel like it's like a heartbeat, kind of like their mother's heartbeat. So, but you're not a puppy. Grow up. You don't have to listen to music and have stuff on all the time. Because why do people have it on all the time? Because they feel empty, alone, and existentially troubled when there's no stimulus around it, when there's no background noise, nothing going on. It's important to confront yourself sometimes and not be distracted. And yes, things like what's the meaning of my life? What about death? Where are we going? These questions come up, and they need to come up. That's important. And there are answers to these kind of situations. But yeah, so stop listening to so much music, and you might not have it playing in the background of your consciousness all the time. There are earworms, and lots of people have earworms, but it's an annoyance. So you have to push it out by focusing on other things. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Abhishek in India. Even if you enter the first jhana once and never entered since, can you fall in sensuality? What about the second jhana and third jhana progressively? You entered once? What happens to tendencies?
Yes, the jhanas are fragile. And the jhanas, the samadhi, this is for those who are not familiar with these terms, the eighth factor of the Eightfold Path is this time when you've trained your mind enough that it can enter into these special states of consciousness. These are purified of the normal harassments of the mind, the normal irritants, psychic irritants of anger and worry and anxiety and cravings and agitations and depressions and impossible doubt structures. The mind is being purified of that, and it enters into this beautiful realm. And this is called Jhana, Jhana, and Samadhi, Samadhi, Samadhi. And these are absolutely lovely. It's lovely to be unharassed, free of the psychic irritants. It's been like released from jail, released from an uncomfortable situation into a beautiful situation, just profound relief and joy and ease. Wonderful. So the problem is, in order to do that, you really have to pull back from normal engagement with the world, the normal seeking of new sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touches, all the wonderful experiences of life, this way and that way, and movies and popcorn and romance and, what? You want me to give up that stuff? Wouldn't it? People are like, they have no idea that there is any alternative to that. That's the only point in life, isn't it? New sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touches and ideas and more ideas and new sights and new this and new that. Life is like meaningless without that, isn't it? So this is what the spiritual teachings are about. It's like, no, there is another dimension of existence which doesn't involve those things, but it is quite delicious. But the mind is very prone to slipping back to the world. And the world, exposure to those things, interesting sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touches, new ideas, is very, tends to be a barrier to entrance into this other dimension, this lovely stillness and silence, etc. It is a barrier. It's like some people, they want to go camping. So people have different ideas or definitions of what camping is. They get a Winnebago or a huge RV with a 28-inch color TV and speakers available on the outside, and then a big barbecue kind of thing, and then pull up into this campground with a full hookup and put an inflatable couch out there and get the booze out. The music's thundering, the watching a movie, and they have a campfire as well. Now that's one definition of going back to nature. And then the other person wants to just slip off into wilderness with a sleeping bag and a plastic tarp, and they don't have a book with them, they don't have music with them, they don't have their iPhone with them, they don't have they just have enough dried food to keep them alive and so forth. They want to be in nature like that. So these are two different types of minds, aren't they? Two different personalities, two different types of ideas about how to spend your life. So yes, if you manage to enter jhana once, you could easily fall out of it and never get to it again. The second, the third, even the fourth. And there's many stories of monks even who have attained this, and then they start hanging out with the wrong people, and then they can't get back to it. So there's two worlds. One of them leads out of this world of the senses, and the other one keeps you trapped in the world of the senses. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Jason. Dear Ajahn, I have tension with my parents because they have taken socially unjust views that affect me, which makes it hard to be in contact, but my dad is dying. What is a wise course of action?
Yeah, stop worrying about it. Just don't worry about it. People, we're not responsible for people's lifetimes of ideas that have been fed to them and they've chosen and so forth. And so, as far as your parents go, you try to do whatever you can for them, but you don't have to have them be politically correct. You just let them do what they do. If they are interested in your views, then you can share them. But you don't have to. They don't have to perfectly conform to your understandings. Thinking in Germany before the Second World War, about half the population voted for Hitler, and they voted for it because it seemed to be the right thing to do. Like it was all about restoring pride to the nation and making things better, and very, very invigorating. And they were, anybody who wants to do that, they're on board with that. And they called him the Führer, the father. They had a warm relationship towards him and so forth. But and then half the population thought, "What is this man saying? He's insane." He's dangerous, and of course it's a very serious matter. It ended up with millions, tens of millions of people being killed over this. So it's a really serious matter. And some people's parents were Nazis, and the child was dismayed, to say the least, about this. But your attitude towards them is that people make mistakes. They don't get it. It seemed the right thing to do. You will try to, in whatever way you can, you try to help them in whatever way you can. But you recognize that your duty really is to have goodwill towards them, even though they're misled. They have bad ideas. You try to have goodwill towards them. And otherwise, you yourself will suffer a lot unnecessarily. So everybody around you can't have the right ideas. And you need to remain with goodwill towards them. Otherwise, you will suffer. You're angry at these people who are destroying the world. They're destroying the climate. They're destroying the environment, etc. And it's true. People do that. But if you burden yourself with anger and hostility and despair and frustration about them, then it's just you that's being burdened. So you decide, people do that. They destroy worlds. They destroy environments. They destroy the next tribe over. They destroy the next country over, etc. So, they do that. And that's human nature. And so what am I going to do about this? Well, I try to be ethical myself, do what I can, say whatever is helpful, but I don't oppress myself by these negative emotions. I realize it's just a foolish thing to have all these toxic negative emotions in myself when I don't need to, and I will, for sure, we will fail to convince others of the wiser views of things, and we need to be prepared to accept that you don't always succeed in getting the message across. So that's how to deal with not only your parents but everybody else in the world.
Next question from the live stream is from Maria. Is recurrent cancer in the same area a sign of bad karma? And are we burning bad karma when confronted with life-threatening diseases?
Yeah, negative, unwanted results are usually the results of some negative action in the past. Yes, we are discharging it. An illness is also the discharge of negative karma. So causes can't be indefinitely sustained. They discharge themselves. So sometimes we have to play it out. Some violence done to we in order to benefit from it, we can say that, I stubbed my toe, and now that I've discharged the cause of that. One less thing to to one less negative thing to discharge. It's done. Well, you go into surgery. Who wants to have surgery done on them? But we bear up with the intrusions and the hospital stay and the money and the illness afterwards because we're looking for health. So we inflict this other pain on us to undo the pain we have, the future pain. So, yeah, we're burning through past karma, both negative and positive, by the way. So when good things happen to you, think, well, there goes that one. Yep, better get on with making new good karma. and you have negative things happening. Okay, I really don't want to make any more bad things happen to me. I really want to be careful not to do negative things. And I really want to be dedicated and energetic in doing good things because I don't like bad stuff happening to me. That's the kind of the idea. Some people are very dismissive of this idea of karma. But hardly anybody seems to live as if there is no cause and effect in your actions and the results. People tend to try to be moral and so forth, unless they're too stupid. So very dull, deluded people act impulsively, and they really don't have much sense of cause and effect. But most people in the normal range of intelligence or clarity have some kind of natural sense, like, if I do that, I might get bad results. And it may not be tomorrow, but it could come back to bite me later on, On the other hand, I think if I do this, then I think might have good results later on. So this is a little higher capacity to function in time with cause and effect in the moral dimension. So the Buddha is taking it to the extreme where ultimately, even lifetimes away, the results might arise. We can't dismiss this idea. There's various people who have clever attempts to say, well, that can't happen because when you die, that's it, and all that kind of stuff. But, it's... one of the questions is, what is the mechanism by which consciousness could continue into another life? The stream of consciousness of one life conditioning the arising of consciousness in another life. How would that happen, etc.? So it's kind of like a scientific question. They used to believe that in order for light to transmit through space, from the sun to the earth, there must be a medium through which it travels, and this medium was called the ether. And so respectable 19th century and maybe even early 20th century scientists referred to the ether, which was some sort of medium or gas or something that must pervade space in order for light to travel through it. You need a mechanism. You can't just travel it. You need a mechanism. All right? So guess what? Turns out you didn't need a mechanism. There is no ether. So when we have all these scientific assertions about, well, what's the mechanism? Just look at history about ideas about mechanisms and so forth, and just realize that, let's keep an open mind about this. Yeah, it may be a little bit beyond our understanding at this moment. Yeah. Next question, Pia.
Ajahn, the next question from the live stream is from Giancarlo in Abu Dhabi. Venerable Ajahn Sona, is there an appropriate age for a young man to begin meditation? Could you recommend a video from your recordings that would be suitable for a teenager?
Meditation can be wonderful for teens. You can even begin as a child, earlier, especially such things as loving kindness. Just sit down in a nice little group and just say out loud, okay, now we're just going to relax in the evening. Let's let all our fears and anger go. And now let's repeat after me. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May my parents be well, happy, and peaceful. May my family be well, happy, and peaceful. May my friends be well, happy, and peaceful. May all the strangers on earth be well, happy, and peaceful. May even the enemies be well, happy, and peaceful. And if they say, well, how can I wish that they're well, happy? Because if they're well, happy, and peaceful, they might be less aggressive towards us. So loving kindness is a meditation, and you can never start too early with that. It's a beautiful thing. It makes you, it's like a prayer before sleeping. Kids often have fears at night, and they're worried about ghosts and bad things and stuff. And you need ways of soothing the mind to before sleep. And so that's one of them. And then you can introduce them perhaps to a little bit of breath meditation at any age. It's good. It's a way of calming down. Just first of all, we're going to calm down and restore our sense of well-being, etc. It needs to be done properly. But so I have lots of videos on this. Watch the the instructions on some instructions on loving kindness, and some instructions on breath meditation. In Buddhist cultures, kids are exposed to this Dhamma very, very early, as soon as they can be. Sometimes they're babies. The Sri Lankans, the Thais, will bring their infants to the temple, and they start hearing this Dhamma very, very early in life. And so this early exposure is very good. I can't name off exactly which video I can recommend for a child, a young person to learn breath meditation, but you'll have to sort through a few of them. I made some short ones. So my strategy in making all these videos is a teaching strategy. So I started with short ones, brief introductions. Then I did medium length ones, like 40-minute ones. And then I did exhaustive ones where I try to cover just about everything you could possibly talk about. And that might be a 12 series talks, 12 talks on a specific topic. So find the little, 8-minute, 10-minute or less kind of ones. Look for that. And they will probably be good ways of teaching these meditations. Okay, well, we are about out of time now, so we will leave it for today.